My husband left me alone at the airport with a baby and no passport. I stood there in the airport, holding my baby, my hands shaking. The crowd around me seemed to move in slow motion, and I just couldn't process what had just happened. My husband, the man I trusted more than anyone, had walked through security, disappearing into the crowd without a second glance. I was left standing there alone. Alone, with nothing. No passport, no way to get back home, and definitely no plan. My heart raced, and for a second, I thought I must be dreaming. There had to be some mistake. But no, the reality of it hit me like a ton of bricks. He had really just left me behind, without a word. How did we get here? How could someone who promised to be my partner in everything, to stand by me through thick and thin, just leave me like this? I tried to call him, but my hands fumbled with the phone. He didn't pick up. The phone just rang, and I stood there helpless, feeling the weight of betrayal settle deep in my chest. It was surreal. This couldn't be real. But it was. My mind was spinning. I couldn't even focus on anything. All I could hear was my baby crying, and it just made everything worse. The panic hit me first. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel my face getting hot. My legs felt weak. What the hell was I supposed to do now? I tried to find him. I searched the terminal, calling his name as if that would magically make him appear. But he was gone. Just gone. I felt humiliated. So completely humiliated. How could he do this? How could he leave me alone with a baby, in a foreign country, without even a glance back? Anger started building inside me, but I didn't know who to be angry with. Him? Myself? How had I missed the signs? I tried not to think too much, but everything hurt. I felt like the world was collapsing around me. The last person I trusted had just shattered that trust, and I was left to pick up the pieces. Alone, time seemed to drag on. Minutes felt like hours, and every second only made the pain more real. The cold weight of betrayal settled into my bones. I was standing in the middle of this bustling airport, but inside I felt like I was drowning. There I was, holding my baby, with nothing, no passport, no help, and nothing but a growing sense of panic that made it hard to breathe. My mind raced. Should I call someone? But who? Who would be able to help me now? I couldn't call him. I already tried that. And I was starting to realize that maybe I didn't want to. It wasn't just about getting help anymore. It was about facing the reality that my marriage, the one thing I thought was stable, had just crumbled in an instant. I had trusted him, and he had completely shattered that trust. And now, I had to face this new, terrifying reality alone. I didn't know what to do next. I was numb and terrified at the same time. I kept asking myself, what now? Should I call him again? Should I beg him to come back? Would that even change anything? Or was this the moment I had to finally accept the truth? He wasn't coming back. Maybe he never had any intention to. A part of me wanted to scream. Part of me wanted to collapse in tears. But another part of me, a stronger part, couldn't help but wonder how I got here. What had I missed? Had I ignored the signs? I kept replaying everything in my mind, going back over the past few months, searching for the moment where things started to go wrong. The distant look in his eyes, the way he became more and more withdrawn, the half-answers, the lies. Had I been so wrapped up in the routine of our life that I didn't notice him slipping away? Was I that blind? And now, here I was, with a baby, and no passport, completely alone. Should I try to make it work? Should I just move on? Every answer felt wrong. And the worst part, I didn't know if I could trust myself to make the right decision anymore. I've been thinking about that moment over and over. The trip we were supposed to take, this was supposed to be our fresh start. We had been through so much, and I thought, this could be the escape we both needed. But now, I see it for what it really was, an escape for him, not for us. When we first met, I thought I had found someone who understood me, someone I could count on. And for the longest time, I truly believed that. We had our dreams, our plans. We were supposed to be partners in everything, good times, bad times. And it seemed like that was all going smoothly until it didn't. Looking back now, I realize that it wasn't one big thing that broke us. It was 100 small things, little lies, half-truths, moments where I tried to talk to him, but he'd pull away. I told myself that it was normal, that we were just busy. But the truth is, it wasn't normal. Things weren't right for months. I should have seen it. I should have known. The trip we were on, it was supposed to fix things. We'd been arguing a lot, but I thought we could patch it up. But when we got to the airport, when he just left me there, I realized how deep the problem really was. I thought it was a one-time fight. But no, that was his way of telling me he was done. And I didn't even get a chance to understand why. He just walked away. In that moment, I felt frozen. I couldn't process it. It wasn't just anger, it was a deep, hollow feeling that hit harder than anything I had ever felt before. I kept staring at the place where he had disappeared, hoping he would turn around and come back, that he'd realize how wrong he was. But no, the more I stood there, the more I realized that it wasn't just about this trip. It was everything. I felt betrayed, not just by him, but by the love I thought we had. I thought we were building something solid, something real. But now, I saw it for what it was, something fragile, something I had ignored because I wanted to believe in it so badly. The more I tried to make sense of what happened, the angrier I became. He had left me, and he had taken away the trust I had in everything. But then there was sadness, so much sadness, because the truth was, no matter how angry I was, I still loved him, and that hurt more than anything. I didn't know what was worse, the betrayal or the fact that, deep down, I was still holding onto a piece of him that was never coming back. It was like drowning in emotions I couldn't even control. When we first met, it felt easy, like we'd known each other for years, even though we hadn't. We laughed all the time, we had our late-night talks, and we shared all our hopes and fears. I remember thinking, this is it. This is my person. He was everything I needed, steady, reliable, and full of love. It felt like nothing could shake us. We started building a life together. We got married, had a baby, and everything seemed to be moving in the right direction. And for a while, it was. I didn't even question it. Why would I? We were partners, or so I thought. The bond we had was real. At least, I thought it was. We raised our child together. We made decisions together. Every milestone felt shared. I remember those quiet moments when it was just the two of us, no distractions, no stress, just us, enjoying the little things. I felt safe with him. I felt like, no matter what happened in life, we'd always have each other. When I held our baby at night and he'd lean in to kiss my forehead, I thought, we've made it. We were a team. That's what I believed. And it was enough. Or at least I thought it was. But looking back, I see things I didn't want to see before. He started changing, just little things at first. He'd get annoyed more easily, snap at me for no reason. He'd come home later than usual, claiming work was busy, but I could see it in his eyes. Something was off. And the worst part, I didn't ask. I just let it slide. I convinced myself it was nothing. But now I know. It was something. There were so many moments where I wanted to talk to him about the distance between us. But I stayed quiet. I didn't want to rock the boat. I didn't want to seem needy or clingy. So I kept quiet. I thought, if I just give him space, things will get better. But they didn't. And I wish, now more than ever, that I had spoken up sooner. I wish I had forced him to talk. I wish I hadn't let everything fester. But I didn't. And now, here we are. I can't pinpoint the exact moment it all started falling apart. There wasn't one single event that broke us. It was the little things, those moments that I didn't want to believe mattered. At first, I'd brush off his irritability, his late nights, the disconnection in his touch. I told myself it was just stress or work. But the truth is, my gut told me something wasn't right. I remember a conversation we had just before the trip. He said, "We'll be fine. We just need to get away for a while." But even then, there was something about the way he said it. It didn't sound like reassurance. It sounded like he was trying to convince himself. I should have questioned it more, but I didn't. I chose to ignore the doubt that crept up in me. I convinced myself that we were in a rough patch and that it would pass. But with every passing day, I could feel it slipping away, and I think, in some way, he felt it too. He started becoming colder, distant in ways I couldn't even explain. I kept reaching out, trying to bridge the gap, but he was already checked out. I started questioning everything we'd built. Every moment I had thought was real now felt hollow. Was any of it ever real? The more I thought about it, the more I questioned my own sanity. Had I been so blinded by love that I couldn't see what was happening? Every time I tried to bring up our issues, he'd dismiss me. It's nothing. Just let it go. But nothing ever got better. It kept building. The silence, the distance, the lies. I was becoming more and more paranoid. But how could I not? Everything I thought I knew about him, about us, was slipping away. There were nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if he even cared about me anymore. Was this just a phase? Was he tired of me? Was I the problem? I couldn't even trust my own feelings. I was constantly second-guessing everything. And then the little things, he'd stay late at work, busy with meetings. But I could tell he wasn't being honest. His phone rang a lot more, but he'd always be so careful about answering it when I was around. I would have asked, but I was afraid of the answer. Deep down, I knew that the trust we once shared had started to unravel, but I wasn't ready to admit it, to face the reality of what was happening. So, I kept going through the motions, trying to ignore the cracks, but deep down, I knew it was only a matter of time before it all came crashing down. That's when I realized that trust is like a thread. It starts to fray, little by little, until it completely snaps. I'd always believed that trust was the foundation of a relationship, But now I was watching it crumble, piece by piece. It wasn't even that he'd outright lied to me, well, not at first. It was the subtle things, the omissions, the half-truths, the little details that didn't add up. The more I dug, the more I realized that the trust between us was slipping through my fingers. One evening, I confronted him. I was tired of the silence, tired of pretending everything was fine. I asked him if he was seeing someone else. He laughed it off, said I was being paranoid. But his eyes were different. He wasn't laughing because he thought it was funny. He was laughing because he knew the answer I feared to hear, and he was hiding it. The guilt in his eyes told me everything I needed to know, and I realized then that the man I had loved wasn't the same anymore. I started finding out the truth. The lies didn't come in big waves, they were like tiny cracks in the wall, small but enough to let the light in. It started with the texts. I didn't mean to look through his phone, but one day, I couldn't help myself. His messages to someone were innocent enough at first, but then I found more. Late night calls, plans he hadn't told me about, things that didn't add up. And there it was, the lies, one after another. He had been lying about where he was, who he was with, and what he was doing. When I confronted him about it, he denied everything. He called me crazy, paranoid. He gaslighted me, made me feel like I was the one who was out of line for questioning him. He made me doubt myself, doubt my own instincts. And I wanted so badly to believe him. I wanted so badly to trust him. But every lie made it harder. Every excuse pushed me further away from him. I couldn't even look at him the same way anymore. The person I thought I knew, the man I had given my heart to, was no longer there. He was a stranger, hiding behind lies and excuses. And the worst part, I didn't know if I could ever trust him again. I started feeling like I was losing myself. Every time I brought up my concerns, he'd turn it around and make me feel like I was the problem. He'd say things like, "You're overreacting," or "You're too sensitive." He would make me feel like I was crazy for even considering that something was wrong. I began to second-guess everything, my feelings, my thoughts, my reactions. He made me feel small. He took my confidence and chipped away at it bit by bit. He'd call me insecure, say I was making things up in my head. And I believed him. I started believing that maybe I was the one who had a problem. Maybe I was just overreacting. Maybe he really was just busy with work, and I was imagining things. But deep down, I knew something was wrong. But his manipulation was so smooth that I couldn't even trust my own thoughts. He had me questioning everything. I was caught in his web, unable to escape the confusion he had created. And the more he pushed me down, the more I lost sight of who I was. The more I tried to make it work, the more he pulled away. I couldn't reach him anymore. Every conversation felt like I was talking to a wall. We'd sit next to each other, but it felt like we were miles apart. The intimacy, the connection we once shared, was gone. It wasn't just the physical distance, it was emotional. He had checked out, and I was left desperately trying to hold on to something that was slipping away. There was no more talking about our dreams, no more quiet moments of connection. We existed in the same space but were strangers to each other, and I couldn't make him care. I couldn't make him see me anymore. I didn't know how much longer I could keep pretending everything was okay when it so clearly wasn't. I kept hoping that one day we would snap out of it, that he would come back to me. But the truth was, he was already gone, and I was left with nothing but an empty shell of what used to be. The confrontation came like a tidal wave. I couldn't hold it in anymore. The lies had built up, and I had to face him. I asked him flat out, "Are you seeing someone else?" And for the first time, I saw the truth in his eyes. He didn't deny it. He didn't even try to justify it. He just stood there, cold and emotionless, as I tore myself apart asking him why. "I'm done," he said. "I don't love you anymore." Those words hit harder than anything he could have said, and just like that, everything came crashing down. The life I had built, the future I had imagined, it was all gone. The man I had trusted, the father of my child, was walking away without even a second thought. As the words sank in, everything else felt irrelevant. He admitted to everything. He confessed that he had been planning this for months, that he had been seeing someone else. He apologized, but his apology was empty, hollow. I couldn't even recognize the man standing before me. The man who promised me forever was now just a stranger. The reality hit me with full force. He had been checking out for so long, and I had ignored it, hoping it would get better. Now, I had nothing. No marriage, no trust, just a broken heart and a shattered future. It all unraveled in an instant. The trust we had was completely shattered. There was nothing left to hold on to. Everything I had believed in, everything I had fought for, was gone. The pain of knowing he had been lying to me, living a life that didn't include me, was unbearable. I felt humiliated, embarrassed, and utterly defeated. I had given him everything, and he had taken it all for granted. I didn't know what to feel. Anger, sadness, regret? They all hit me at once, like waves crashing over me. I wanted to scream, to collapse, to break down and never get up. I wanted to fight him, to demand answers, but I already knew the truth. The damage was done, and no matter how much I wanted to change it, I couldn't. I was angry at him, angry at myself, angry at the way he had destroyed everything without a second thought. But most of all, I was heartbroken. Heartbroken that the person I had loved so much could turn into someone I didn't recognize. The fallout from everything hit me harder than I expected. It wasn't just the end of my marriage, it was the end of everything I had ever known. The life we had built, the trust, the dreams we shared, all came crashing down in one brutal moment. I didn't know what to do, where to go, or even who I was anymore. Every single day felt like a battle. I had to process what had just happened, and there was no clear way to do it. I was a mother, and I had to stay strong for my child, but inside I felt shattered. The pain was all-consuming. It wasn't just the betrayal, it was the realization that the life I had been living wasn't real. I tried to keep everything together. I had to, but the weight of being abandoned, especially in such a cold way, kept crushing me. It wasn't just about him leaving, it was about how he made me feel. He made me feel like I wasn't enough, like I didn't matter, and that hurt. More than anything else, I had to deal with the fallout. Not just emotionally, but practically too. The future I had envisioned for my child and me gone. The life we were supposed to live was now uncertain, and I felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, not knowing how to move forward. I knew I couldn't stay in the past, but I couldn't see how to move into the future either. Regret became my constant companion. I kept thinking, what if I had done something differently? What if I had asked the right questions? What if I had seen the signs sooner? But it was too late for what ifs. The damage was done. My heart felt like it was in pieces, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make it whole again. I couldn't stop thinking about the baby. This betrayal was going to affect them too. The future I had dreamed of for us, where we were a family, happy, stable, had vanished in a matter of minutes. My heart broke not just for me, but for my child. I never wanted them to grow up in a world where their father wasn't there, where they didn't know what love was supposed to feel like. I had always wanted to give them the best, but now all I could give them was a broken home. And there was guilt too. The guilt that I didn't protect them from this pain, that I couldn't keep us together. No matter how hard I tried, I had failed, and I didn't know how to reconcile that with the love I still had for him, the man who had been everything to me and nothing at the same time. I had so many questions, so many emotions swirling inside me, but the biggest one was regret. I regretted that I didn't see it coming. I regretted believing in something that wasn't real. The aftermath was just as messy as the betrayal itself. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, numb to the world. Every moment felt heavy, and the emptiness inside me was suffocating. I wanted to crawl into bed and never leave, but I couldn't. I had a baby to take care of. I remember the first time I had to get out of bed after everything had happened. I had to force myself to get dressed, to pretend like I was okay. But every time I looked at my reflection, I didn't recognize the person staring back at me. How could I have allowed this? How could I have let someone I trusted so deeply tear apart everything we had? It wasn't just the emotional fallout, it was the physical toll too. My body felt drained. I hadn't been sleeping, hadn't been eating right. My mind kept replaying the betrayal, and no matter how hard I tried to stop it, I couldn't. It consumed me, and the pain wasn't just in my heart. It was in my bones, in my every thought. It was like I was carrying the weight of 1,000 regrets, and I didn't know how to let go of them. The consequences were far-reaching. It wasn't just about me anymore, it was about my child, our future, and everything that had been destroyed. My life had been shattered, and now I had to figure out how to pick up the pieces. There were days I didn't know where to begin. The thought of having to rebuild from scratch felt impossible, but the truth was, I had no choice. The reality set in that I was alone now. I had to figure out how to raise my child on my own, how to survive without the person I thought I could rely on. It wasn't just about facing the emotional wreckage, it was about the practical aspects too. There were bills to pay, decisions to make, and I couldn't make them on my own. I felt so alone in that. I felt like I was carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders, and it was crushing me. But the hardest part was the fear of the unknown. What now? What's next? I didn't know where to go from here, but I had to find my way. I had to do it for my child. I had to be strong, even when I didn't feel like I had anything left. I tried. I really did. I tried to move on, to pick up the pieces of my life and put them back together. But it wasn't easy. Every step felt like an uphill battle. The memories kept flooding back. The love, the lies, the hurt. And the worst part was, no matter how much I wanted to move forward, I couldn't forget what had happened. I had moments where I felt like I was making progress. Small victories like getting out of bed in the morning, getting through the day, without breaking down. But then there were other days when I'd catch myself staring at the empty space where he used to be, and the pain would hit all over again. It felt like I was stuck in a cycle of grief, guilt, and anger. I was trying to rebuild myself, to find a way forward, but there were days when I just didn't know how. But I didn't give up. Slowly, I started to reclaim parts of myself. I started to see that the person I was before all of this strong, confident, capable was still there. I had to dig deep to find her again, but I did. I started to believe in myself again, even when everything around me seemed like chaos. The hardest part, the part that took the longest, was learning to accept it. Accept what had happened. Accept that I couldn't change the past, that I couldn't undo the pain, and that I couldn't go back to who I was before. It wasn't easy. There were days when the anger still bubbled up, when I still wanted answers, when I still wanted him to realize what he had done. But I knew deep down that I wasn't going to get those answers. And even if I did, it wouldn't change anything. I had to let go. Let go of the man who wasn't coming back. Let go of the life I thought we would have. Let go of the dreams I had held onto for so long. It was like breaking free from chains I had wrapped around myself. Chains of guilt, regret, and false hope. And in that letting go, I found freedom. I started to rebuild my life, piece by piece, not for him, but for me, for my child, for the future I wanted, not the one I had been handed. I'm not whole yet, but I'm getting there, and that's enough. In the silence, after everything had calmed down, I started to reflect on what had happened, and it was painful, so painful. I thought about how I had given everything to someone who didn't even appreciate it. I thought about how I had ignored my own instincts, my own gut, because I didn't want to face the truth. I thought about how I had given away my power, my voice, all for a relationship that wasn't even real. But as painful as that reflection was, I needed it. I needed to see the truth for what it was, no matter how ugly. I needed to understand why I allowed myself to be in that position, why I ignored the red flags, and why I stayed when I should have walked away. And the more I reflected, the more I realized that the pain wasn't just about him leaving. It was about me not loving myself enough to walk away sooner. I had let myself be manipulated, let myself believe in a version of love that wasn't real. And that hurt more than anything. But in that pain, I found something. I found strength. Strength I didn't know I had. And that's what I'm holding on to now. I've learned to trust myself. Again, to stand up for myself. And to never settle for less than I deserve. The pain hasn't gone away. Not completely. Some days it still hits me like a wave, and I feel like I'm drowning in it. But other days, I can breathe. Other days, I can smile again. I've learned that pain is a part of growth. It's not easy, and it's not pretty, but it's necessary. If I hadn't gone through this, if I hadn't experienced the betrayal, I wouldn't have learned how strong I really am. I wouldn't have realized just how much I deserve to be loved, respected, and cared for. I used to think that love meant staying, no matter how much it hurt. But now I know that love means respecting yourself enough to walk away when it's no longer right. It means knowing your worth and not settling for anything less. This pain, as horrible as it is, has taught me the most valuable lesson I could ever learn. That I am enough. That I can stand on my own 2 feet, without anyone's validation. I've learned that the love I give myself is the only love I'll ever need to feel whole. If there's one thing I've learned from this, it's that trust is fragile. It takes years to build, but only moments to destroy. And once it's broken, it's incredibly hard to repair. But what's even more important is understanding that betrayal isn't just about what the other person does, it's about how you react to it. I've learned that sometimes, the hardest thing to do is let go of the person you thought you couldn't live without. But the truth is, life will always move forward, with or without them. And you have to learn to move with it. Betrayal doesn't just hurt, it changes you. But it doesn't have to define you. The pain is temporary, and it's through that pain that you learn your own worth, your own strength. This experience has taught me that I don't need anyone to complete me. I don't need anyone to define my worth. I am enough as I am. I've learned to love myself again, to trust myself again. And I've learned that true love starts from within. If you're going through something similar, I want you to know that you're not alone. It may feel like the end of the world right now, but it's just the beginning of your new life. The life where you're in control, where you decide what your future holds. So, take the time to heal, to rebuild, and to discover who you truly are. Don't let anyone steal your peace or your worth. You are enough, and you will get through this stronger, wiser, and more in love with yourself than ever before. I know this pain is deep, but it doesn't have to define me. Share your own story in the comments if you've been through something similar. I'd love to hear from you. And if you want more real-life confessions and raw stories, make sure to subscribe. It helps me keep going, and I want to share more of these with you.